Hi, this is Tony Sagami. Hey, I want to talk to you about computers this week. Gartner Research, which is probably the #1 most respected computer industry watchdog, just announced last week that they expected computer sales to slow in the second half of the year and revise their sales estimates downward by 2%. 2% may not sound like a lot, but we're talking about tens of millions of computer sales. But this is on the heels of a couple other warnings from the computer industry itself. Just last week we saw Intel warn that its third quarter sales would be lower than expected. Previously they had forecast $11.2 to $12 billion of sales, but now they lowered that to $10.8 billion to $11.2. So really you're talking about $1 billion of sales of computers disappearing in a press release puff of smoke. That's a lot of sales. That's also on the heels of similar warnings from both Dell and Hewlett Packard, who also said that computer sales were a little weak. But one of the really important things I think about the Intel news was that buried in the headline was the news that said it was seeing weaker than expected demand for consumer PCs in mature markets. Now, mature markets, that's Wall Street speak for the United States and Europe. And so that tells you what we already know, that the economies both in the U.S. and in Europe are having troubles. But if you read between those lines, that also tells you that the business in Asia is pretty strong. And in case you're thinking that I'm going to tell you about the computer industry being just horrible and that you've got to run away from it, you're wrong. The PC business is actually very strong in certain parts of the world. And that part of the world specifically is Asia. You know, I'm talking about two Asian companies, Lenovo and Acer. Lenovo is based in China, and Acer is based in Taiwan. Now, you might remember that Lenovo made a big splash when they bought IBM's computer division back in 2005. You know, at the time, I told American investors that Dell and Hewlett Packard were headed for some pretty serious trouble. Because one thing you don't want to do is compete against low-cost Chinese producers when you're a high-cost American producer. But there was a couple other pieces of news this last week that I think makes Lenovo look even better. They just announced that they were going to unleash and sell a gaming console by the end of this year. And that gaming console will be for video games for kids. It'll compete against Microsoft's Xbox, Nintendo's Wii, and the Sony PlayStation. But this new gaming console called the e-Box, instead of being connected to a PC, will connect to a high-definition TV set. And it will also connect to the internet. And it has a controller that has motion detector chips in it, and it can be operated by hand gestures. Pretty interesting stuff. Also, Lenovo recently entered the cell phone business. So what I like to compare Lenovo to, it's almost like a Apple computer in that it has several different products, all high-tech products with very different niches. Apple has the iPod, the iPad, the iTouch, and of course the Mac computers. So Lenovo has a similar exciting lineup. If you're interested in a computer stock, I think there's no question that Lenovo is the very best one. And you can buy shares of it here on the American Exchange on the over-the-counter market. Ticker for Lenovo is LNGVY.PK. LNGVY.PK. I'm not saying you rush out and buy it today, but if you're going to be in the computer business, that's the one to own. Until next week, this is Tony Sagami signing off.